it would seem that after quite a bit of back and forth and wondering what's going to happen and who's going to be playing the role and what's going to be happening, James Gunn has apparently found his Superman slash Clark Kent and Lois Lane. Now, as for the Superman, it's kind of a bit of, Henry Cavill-Lite, if you would. I'll explain that as I go along. But let's get into this bit of information that has recently come out so we'll get a better understanding of it. Right. Superman Legacy finds lead with David Corenswet. I'm not trying to mess with the name. I just hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. David Corenswet and Rachel Brosnahan. The duo will star as Clark Kent and Lois Lane in James Gunn's film. Okay, so this is David Corenswet here, and this is Rachel Brosnahan. Now, I have heard of Rachel Brosnahan. I mean, she was in House of Cards. I've never watched it, but I have heard of her work, and people say that she's actually really good. I've never heard of David Corenswet, but honestly, when you look at him, kind of looks like a younger version of Henry Cavill. He kind of does look like a younger version of Henry Cavill, and that's really why I went with the whole, Henry Cavill-Lite thing there. But I mean, it really does kind of look like a younger version of Henry Cavill. Now, what I will say in regards to this, positive thing I will say in regards to this, is that they do look the part. I will give them that. He does look like how you would expect Superman to look, strong jaw, blue eyes, probably going to give him a little Jerry curl to the front there, a little curl there. She does look like how you would expect Lois Lane to look. So yeah, they've got the visuals of how they're supposed to look done, so it's encouraging on that part. Let's read on a little bit more. After a lengthy search, David Corenswet and Rachel Brosnahan will star in Superman Legacy, the film that will launch DC's new universe under writer-director Gunn and his DC Studios co-boss Peter Safran. Corenswet and Brosnahan were among 6 actors who vied for the lead roles, with Gunn filming screen tests over the June 17th weekend with Nicholas Hoult and Tom Brittney also in contention to play Superman, Clark Kent, and Emma McKay and Phoebe Dynevor in the running for Daily Planet reporter Lois Lane. Okay, now again, as I say, I've never heard of David Corenswet. To be honest, I had not heard much about Henry Cavill before he played Superman. I did know about him, but I didn't hear much about him before that. But as I say again, but one thing I will say that James Gunn does have going for him is that he really does have a talent with finding people for a role and kind of making them embody that role. You look at Star-Lord, for instance. You also look at John Cena's Peacemaker. That seemed to be really, really getting some traction with the fans. So, I mean, like I say, he does seem to know how to bring out the best of these actors that he does put in these roles. So it's possible that David Corenswet may very well turn out to be quite the Superman actor in regards to it. The movie, on the other hand, that might be a whole different story. All right. Few roles are as coveted or come with as much pressure as Superman. That's doubly true in the current landscape, as Corenswet will anchor a new universe as DC attempts to reinvent itself after a streak of misses with October's Black Adam near, March's Shazam Fury of the Gods, terrible, and the recent Flash. I'm going to have a video coming out about how badly Flash is bombing very soon, but in regards to it, they go on about how, actors who've played Superman before, Christopher Reeve, Brandon Routh, that Superman Returns is still one of the worst Superman movies of all time. And then Henry Cavill and all of this. that they go on. Okay. Superman Legacy has a release date of July 11, 2025, with Gunn expecting to film early next year. The casting search will now continue for characters such as Lex Luthor and the superheroes The Authority, who are expected to debut in Legacy before top-lining their own film. Now, in this Superman Legacy, apparently Superman is going to be battling the Authority. I don't know how I really feel about that. I don't think the Authority is really the kind of thing to be put into that movie, especially if you're trying to build a literal extended universe. You have to have a cohesive idea in mind of what you're going to do. And the Authority kind of a little bit more like the boys than, you know, more than cut and dry DC characters. That's my take on it in regards to them. So let me get into some information here. James Gunn did confirm on Twitter. He said, accurate, they are not only both incredible actors but also wonderful people. Right now, James Gunn has been spending a little too much time on Twitter going back and forth with people who telling him talk about oh, why did he get rid of Henry Cavill? And he says that, he wanted a younger actor and all that. I just keep going back and forth. Well, I mean, I don't really think it's the best use of his time to be doing that, because these people who live on Twitter, they're going to find anything and everything they have a problem with. These are the same people who didn't like Henry Cavill, and now they're coming out. Well, most of them, I'm not going to say that Henry Cavill doesn't have fans. Yes, you have fans who are upset about it. I thought getting rid of him was kind of a dick move, because, he was a good Superman. I mean, he just had bad material to really work with. That was really that it wasn't necessarily his fault. I say again, Man of Steel was too dark for a movie. I mean, Superman was supposed to be more bright and upbringing and all that, and it didn't get that, and then they would rush right into Batman v Superman, which was just, terrible. And then the only Justice League that I actually considered to be Justice League was actually somewhat interesting, but overall, that universe is pretty much dead and gone now, and despite how badly the Flash is bombing as well. Right, so like I say, he's online, going on among the Superman initial stages. Our story will be focusing on an earlier part of Superman's life, so the character will not be played by Henry Cavill, and he keeps going on, and everybody keeps getting into it, and he keeps going back and forth with it. It's really kind of disturbing and stuff, but I don't know. I'm just saying you could find something better to do than just going back and forth with all of this online and stuff. But I'm more interested in what it is going to be happening in the movie. Now, what he did say, and this is the synopsis for Superman Legacy, right? That said, it's not an origin story. It focuses on Superman balancing his Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing. Superman represents truth, justice, and the American way. He is kindness in a world that thinks of kindness as old-fashioned. Right? And says that the film in many ways centers around Superman's heritage, how both his aristocratic Kryptonian parents and his Kansas farmer parents inform who he is and the choices he makes. Okay, now let me just say, in regards to part of that, the fact that he brought back the truth, justice, and the American way, I think that's really good. That's exactly how Superman should be. Should be focused on truth, justice, and America. We know that whole truth, justice, and a better tomorrow crap that DC Comics is trying at this point in time. No, but where he talks about Superman trying to balance his Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing, Superman is an alien. That's a given fact. He's an alien from Krypton. Okay. But ever since he was a baby, he's been raised on Earth. He is basic. He's literally human at this point. That's pretty much it. He's human with some of these other powers and all kind of thing about it. Now, one thing I've always said I had a problem with is when they try to humanize him without actually realizing that, his morals are what make him human. And by humanize him, I mean when they try to make him weaker to fit the narrative. No, Superman is powerful enough to destroy entire planets on his own if he chooses to. But he won't do that because he was raised with morals, with loving, with all that kind of thing. When he meets other races, he introduces himself as Superman or Clark. Only when prompted, like, he's Kryptonian, prompted, like, well, he's Kryptonian or something, then will he say that he's Kal-El. He fully accepts the fact that he is human. You understand me? And while I'm not saying that, he can't have some struggle between his Kryptonian and human heritage, if you decide to make a movie focusing on this whole where I'm human, I want to be human, but I'm Kryptonian, I don't want to do that, I don't like it, where we got enough of that crap in Smallville and it got really old really fast. Really, really fast. Superman is Superman. We understand, but he has been raised on Earth with all these mortal things. He's basically born. He basically bred human. He's born Kryptonian. He is powerful enough to do all the things imaginable he could ever want to, but he would never do that. That has always been Superman's greatest strength. That he has the power and he has a strong heart to know what to do, what not to do with it. So that's just me. I think if they focus on that in the movie, then we will really have something to look forward to. But again, I said I'm very worried about James Gunn because I don't think James Gunn will be the right person for it. But anything could be possible. Anything could really be possible. And with the way that what has happened with the Flash, and now we're talking about the Authority, he has to deal with a lot of that stuff. It could be anything for anything really. But as of right now, we have our Superman and we have our Lois Lane. Now, the only thing left to see, because if you look at what's left in DC slate to come out, Flash is our unmitigated disaster. Like I said again, I have a video on that coming out very soon. Next up, we have Blue Beetle, and some information that I have received from someone who I can trust. I said that somebody that they know has seen the Blue Beetle movie and it's not very good. Again, I will give it a watch and give my own opinion on it and stuff, but that's not very promising, especially with what DC has going on right now. Nobody really cares about Aquaman. The test screenings were terrible. People were pretty much ready to storm the cinema and take that movie and drown it or something like that. So it's not looking good. And the only thing they really have, and that's really it. So it's just that, and then you have a year gap in between, and then you get to Superman Legacy. And with the way that Marvel and DC have pretty much dropped the ball now when it comes to superhero movies, and maybe superhero fatigue might be a real thing, or maybe people are just sick and fed up of all that horse shit that you're putting out in cinemas. Could be. But Superman Legacy has a lot on its shoulders now, and let's hope and pray that David Corenswet could really hold that up. So that's the breaking news, people. We have our Superman, Clark Kent, and we have our Lois Lane for Superman Legacy. Now we just wait to see all the people that they're going to put in with all the diversity and inclusion and representation. And this, Perry White might end up being Perry Black. Jimmy Olsen might get swapped again. Somebody's probably going to be gay or whatever. We know these things, but it's just to look and see what may happen, or maybe they may not decide to do it at all. Anything is possible. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. If you have a different opinion, I'd love to hear it. If you like the video, hit that thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. Ring the notification bell. Notified every time I put out a new video. And I shall see you all next time. Take care.